In the face of accelerating U.S. military presence near its shores, Venezuela has launched what officials call a massive deployment of ground, air, naval, and missile forces, raising alarm across Latin America and the world. Can Caracas realistically withstand the might of the U.S. military? Or is this crisis merely a show of defiance? Venezuela's announcement came amid the arrival of the USS Gerald Ford carrier strike group and accompanying warships in the Caribbean in what the U.S. describes as a counter-narcotics operation. IntelliNews +3, The Washington Post +3, Press TV +3, Venezuelan Defense Minister Vladimir Padrino Lopez declared that the nation was placing all armed branches on full readiness, mobilizing troops, missiles, and national militia. Al Jazeera +2, Anadolu Ajansi +2, Caracas is implementing a defense strategy named Plan Independence 200, which involves the mobilization of land, air, naval, riverine, and missile forces, as well as the civilian militia. IntelliNews +1, the operation aims to integrate the military, police, and civil defense units across the country in response to what the government perceives as a looming threats. Reports cite approximately 200,000 troops being mobilized across various branches of Venezuela's armed forces in reaction to increasing U.S. presence. Anadolu Ajansi +2, Al Jazeera +2. Meanwhile, the government claims to hold more than 5,000 Russian-made Igloo-S surface-to-air missiles and is preparing guerrilla-like resistance or anarchization strategies if conventional defense fails. Times Live +1, the U.S. maintains that its deployment in the region is aimed at disrupting illicit drug trafficking through the Caribbean and Eastern Pacific. Dawn Venezuela, however, views the buildup as an attempt at regime change, accusing Washington of imperialist ambitions. Al Jazeera +1 in particular, Venezuela has heightened readiness along its coastline and border with Colombia, conducting amphibious maneuvers, drone reconnaissance, and electronic warfare operations aimed at repelling possible external incursion. Anadolu Ajansi +1, such steps reflect Caracas' belief it may face a multi-front confrontation. Despite the rhetoric, analysts warn that Venezuela's armed forces face severe limitations: outdated equipment, low morale, supply issues, and lack of training. One insider admitted, "We wouldn't last 2 hours in a conventional war." Times Live, the reality behind the show of force may thus be weaker than the claims suggest. The government is also relying more heavily on its civilian militia units, aiming for popular mobilization as part of a people's defense doctrine. At a layer +1, the integration of civilians into defense roles is aimed at compensating for military shortfalls and deterring an attack through the threat of widespread resistance. The evolving situation has drawn concern from neighboring countries. Colombia, for instance, has warned of violations of sovereignty if U.S. operations encroach across borders. Anadolu Ajansi, meanwhile, Venezuela's diplomacy is increasingly isolated as it frames the U.S. deployment as a threat to all of Latin America. While the rhetoric suggests imminent war, many analysts consider a full-scale U.S. ground invasion unlikely. Instead, the scenario most debated is a limited strike or coercive operation. The Guardian +1 for Venezuela. The hope is deterrence through mobilization and messaging rather than a conventional battlefield victory. For President Nicolás Maduro and his government, the deployment and public statements serve dual purposes: internal rallying of support amid economic collapse, and signaling to the world that Venezuela will resist. ELPS English +1, the game of military posturing may well have begun, but whether it leads to conflict or containment remains uncertain.